built on relationships, focused on people, and rooted in the community. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. Tune in for weekly episodes featuring guests who are building a better tomorrow. You'll hear inspiring stories from industry leaders, business owners, community partners, and our team members. The Build Blue podcast, where construction comes to life. An Apex Construction Group production. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. My name is Jess Blaze with Apex Construction Group, and we are joined for our episode today by Dr. Paul Peterson, the Superintendent of District 77 here in Mankato. Good morning.
It's great to see you.
It's great to see you. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
You had a long commute from the district office to our office right across the sidewalk.
Just about 50 feet, and this is a great setup you have here. And
Thank you.
It's nice to have you downtown, and happy to be here.
Thank you. We love it down here. We'll start. Let's learn a little bit about you, yourself, your background, and how long you've been with the district.
Yeah. So just last Friday, with a few graduations, we've just wrapped up 3 school years here in the Mankato system. Prior to that, we were up in St. Peter for quite a few years, 20 years with being a principal and a superintendent there. Grew up in central Minnesota and found our way down here to southern Minnesota, and we just love it. Our boys were both born and raised down here, and now we're trying our best to help our schools here in the largest district in southern Minnesota, except for Rochester, to keep moving forward. And it's been a great ride so far.
Well, awesome. We're happy to have you, and we do start all of our episodes with an Apex Icebreaker.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So if you could open and run any business, what would it be?
I would, this is crazy, but I would run, it's so stupid, but I would run a concession stand.
A concession stand? I love it.
Yeah. Number one, I probably love that sort of food way too much. But I also have experience. I do. Yeah. Way back in the day when I was, 13, 14, 15, it was like a food truck at our local softball field. 2 teachers, coaches that said, "Hey, Paul, we need some help." And so I was making corn dogs, cotton candy, popcorn, the fried bread roll.
Yes.
I'm very, just enough. No, don't put me in a restaurant or don't have me cook anything, but a concession stand.
You're good around a fry basket.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I can flip, the Snickers to the best of them. And now, running it, I think I could run it, but then being responsible for inventory, and I don't know.
That's where it gets a little dicey.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, I think that's something I probably could handle.
That's awesome. So we'll watch for that in your retirement someday.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or if this soup gig doesn't work out, if I've got the latest food truck down here at the hub, then it's like, oh, that's where he landed.
So summer break is officially here for the students of District 77.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that things stop for you and your team. So let's talk about the district's summer priorities and kind of what that looks like for you guys.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, from a school perspective, the end of the year for kids and families and teachers especially, it's just one deep breath. And I suppose at the district level we do that too, but you're always kind of living in multiple school years, always looking ahead. So the summer months, more than anything, is all about facilities, construction. I mean, we've got big projects going on at Franklin Elementary, finishing up their HVAC. Lincoln Community Center is being gutted this summer. Everything's out of there. Roosevelt, the same thing. And then the 15 Map Drive with the MRCI building is a big project for us. So just without having kids and staff in a lot of the buildings, it's just the primo time to get after those things. And we're also, with our teachers, I mean, people talk sometimes about teachers get 3 months off. That's really not true. So many of them come in, are doing curriculum writing and lesson development and new course development. A lot post-COVID for us to be doing when it comes to academic and social emotional health and mental health of kids. And so teachers get they do have an opportunity to kind of catch their second wind, but we'll have a lot of things happening in the district getting us ready for next fall.
Yeah, those teachers absolutely work hard all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Man. You started your role in Mankato in 2019, like you mentioned. And of course, nothing could have prepared you or any of us for what was to come. So can you talk about your biggest takeaways from the pivots and changes and challenges of education during a global pandemic?
Yeah, that's great. I've had so many people ask me, gosh, Paul, you came in 19, you got a few months of normal, and then this hit. If you would have known that was going to happen, would you still have made the move? And without a doubt, I mean, it's been a great opportunity. It's a huge challenge. I mean, some really, really rough patches. But probably the biggest takeaway I've had, and I don't think this is specific to Mankato, but public schools are so, they're so essential to just the operations of society. Like that was, I think we always knew the value of our schools, but just to kind of keep the rhythm of life going, people need schools open.
Yeah.
So when we shut down elementary schools for a couple of weeks and went distance learning, or we had our middle and high schools offline for a little bit longer, that really disrupts learning, it disrupts kid development and all that. Well, God knows we know that in the schools, but it disrupts, like, parents got to work.
Yeah.
Like they got stuff to do. And so schools are needed just to keep things moving. And so when there's not that reliable, the bus comes at 7:15, the kids are home at 3:30, the disruption of that was, it just reinforced even more how critical schools are, yes, for learning, yes, for development, but just for a place for kids to be while adults do their thing. And we learned a lot about, from inside of our system, we learned a lot about, as nimble as our system tried to be, like, oh, let's move to online learning. And people tried their best, and hybrid. Schools are really tough to change.
Yeah.
I mean, teachers go to school and are developed in a certain way to teach. And then when you not just turn that 2 degrees, but you completely put it on its ear and say, okay, now do the same thing, but just totally different. That's not just an easy, oh, okay. That was a big takeaway too, is just how status quo systems are. And for as innovative as we tried to be, it's not the same. Kids, parents, even teachers all said it was nice to get back.
Yes. Yes, it was. As a parent who lived through the distance learning, and to do it so quickly.
Yeah.
There, with no warning, it happened so fast.
Yeah.
And all things said, you guys did a great job.
Well,
with the cards you were dealt with all of us, the cards we were dealt. So
yeah, yep. And I think so much about our parents and our staff members who, everyone's living through it. No one had any experiences, and so from the classroom up to the boardroom to the parents to the employers, everyone was taking us one step, putting one step in the front of the other, not quite sure where this was going. And I always said with our team, hopefully we get on the other side of this, and we have not, certainly not purposely done anything that created harm to kids or families. But boy, we heard a lot of people's opinions about how things should go, and that's just
I'm sure
that's just going to happen.
Yes, absolutely. And there is a new position. What you brought up, the mental emotional health, the social emotional health of the students. Can we talk about that that position a little bit?
Yeah, mental health navigator is a huge add to our system. Great contributions from United Way, Mankato Clinic, Mayo. Really recognizing that kids, it wasn't just simply, the kids need to be back in school. That was not the only thing that needed to happen. With the time that kids are in the disruption to their school life, but also their growth and development, we've seen a significant increase in mental health issues. And so with social workers and therapists, there's only so many hours in the day. And so being able to add a mental health navigator, his name is Patrick Clark, he's amazing. And his job is to connect families with community resources. And we have a lot of them here.
We do.
There's a lot of service providers. Yes, they have long lists and they're seeing a ton of people, but Patrick is the guy who can connect them. So they might be a third grader at Rosa Parks, but he can connect that family to something out in the community that will provide the help, support, get them back on track. And we're so grateful to have that. And I think what we've seen in Patrick's very short time is we need like 5 Patricks.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of need, and but we're happy to provide that. And again, the service providers here in our community are amazing.
Yeah.
We just got to get them connected to the kids.
Yep. Absolutely. That's so important. Let's kind of switch gears and talk about skilled trades,
Yeah.
labor, and you brought up the project that's happening at Franklin Elementary. That's a project that we're working on here at Apex. But let's talk about how District 77 and your staff are promoting interest and excitement for youth to maybe explore skilled trades work.
Well, I think that so much of not just high school, but middle school is about readiness. And we need to continue to talk to kids about, yes, you're in high school now or you're in middle school now, and sometimes their future is only as far as they can they can put their arm out in front of them. But you need to talk to them about, hey, someday you're going to graduate.
Yep.
And when you walk across that stage, you're going to have options. And schools need to be about preparing them not just with academic content, but with skills and thinking about what they might be good at. And so our career and college readiness programs really do go all the way down into our elementary schools, getting kids to think about what are they going to be. And not in a way where we're asking them okay, get on this track and never change your mind. My gosh. I mean, we all continue to change our mind. We change careers, we change ideas, our interests change. But to give them practical experiences to explore, engage, and then experience, not just with a field trip out to a construction site. That's cool. But in high school, they could be doing some job shadowing. They could be doing internships. They could be doing hands-on and at the same time generating credit, probably making some money too. That has become more and more. We call those career pathways at East, West, and our kids at Central. Kids have an opportunity to jump on a pathway to see if it's something they're interested in. And the trades, as we all know, high demand for people who in those areas, really great paying positions. And some of it is continuing to break down those stereotypes of everybody needs to go to a four-year college.
Yeah.
And it's not really, Jess, you probably have seen this, it's not really with the kids that you have to break down that stereotype.
It's the parents.
It's the parents.
Yeah.
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 So many parents are like, hey, all that trade stuff, that's cool, but my kid's going here. and so a lot of our teachers, our counselors, our coordinators are working with parents to just open their eyes to the economic reality and just the job demands here in our community. So that's a big part of what we do, that preparation within our district.
That's awesome. And I know that you guys have some great teachers, like with the shop program at the high schools and things like that. So always cool to see the projects that those guys are working on. I know I think it was the East Shop class a couple of years ago did a really neat woodworking project for the Educare basket raffle that we did at the fundraiser. And it's really awesome to see things that the young people in our community are building with their hands. They
had a beautiful table just at this last benefit again. And the great things about the trade, especially in the high school, kids vote with their feet when they register for courses. And so if you don't have a great teacher getting those kids excited about cabinet making or welding or ag science, kids aren't going to sign up for those classes. And those programs will die. But they aren't dying. They're growing because the kids are looking at that teacher going, I want to hang out with her. Or I want to be with him. And it just kind of keeps feeding itself. So that will continue to transform what the high school experience is. When I think back to many years ago now when I was in high school, it's pretty traditional, 4 years of this, 4 years of that. And we've got kids in a lot of different spaces in the community. And a lot of the credit generating opportunities that kids have in high school now aren't even done in the school. They're working. They're maybe up on campus at South Central or at MSU. So it's different than it used to be.
And that having those higher learning institutes right in our community certainly lends itself to that.
It's amazing. Yep, it really is.
Let's talk about the exciting development of the new district building at Map Drive. You alluded to that in the beginning. What's that building going to house? What does that mean for the district? And then by the time this episode airs, the naming will be closed. But I want to also know if you got a lot of community interest in the naming of that building.
Yeah, so we're so excited about 15 Map Drive. And to talk about the naming, we can't wait for there to be a name. So we stopped calling it 15 Map Drive or the former MRCI building, which we're so excited that they used to be in there. They took such great shape of that. I mean, we're going to completely overhaul it inside. And there will be a lot of things going in there, but primarily it will be a preschool center. And that's a strategic direction that we're heading into. It's a little different than we've done in the past. We do have very, very few preschool classrooms in some of our elementary schools, but this will really be a center. I mean, we will be able to serve hundreds of kids, those super young right up to pre-kindergarten, in a whole variety of early childhood family education, early childhood special education, school readiness, pre-K. That will take up most of the building, and we'll make sure that we're reaching out to the diversity of our community. MAPS serves people in Mankato, North Mankato, Eagle Lake, Madison Lake, Skyline, so we need to make sure that we can figure out ways to get them there. But the space itself is great. The designs are coming along really awesome. It'll be a phased in. We're going to start small next fall with some things in there, but construction will happen over the next 2 years. We'll also throw some food service operational things in there. Our maintenance department will be in there. There's some great space in the back. But yeah, we still need to do some preschool elements, like at our Eagle Lake facility, the Eagle Lake Elementary, awesome building, and they need to have preschool services at that site. But this is really going to provide us with a chance, because almost all of the kids, not all of them, but so many of the kids who are in preschools in our community end up at a MAPS kindergarten. And so it just makes sense for us to be in the game at the preschool level, to be, those experiences, that exploring the readiness. So when they hit a Washington Elementary kindergartner, it's an aligned program.
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So that's the vision, and we just couldn't be more excited. So speaking of the naming, we got hundreds of ideas, and they range from names of people to like geographic, sort of a nod to the geography of the area. That will be probably, just like when Prairie Winds was named and Rosa Parks, and that'll be tough because you can only pick one name, but there'll be a small little committee that'll recommend that to the school board, and we'll get that in place, and away we go.
That's really exciting and just a great move for the district. My son, who's going into 5th grade at Washington, he plays baseball. Yeah. So they're playing baseball at Rosa Parks, and he's very thrown by why Rosa Parks is the only elementary school that doesn't have a president's name. I said, well, it was the newest elementary school, so I think the naming process changed a little bit.
That's right. Yeah, and that's it's been interesting over the last few years. We've taken some questions about, so what's with all these presidents, and are those going to stick, and that's a topic for another day, and hopefully we can maybe engage in that later. But yeah, that's a fun part of building something, is creating that identity.
Absolutely. As a business, Apex, we are highly interested in being a community servant. We do a lot of work with local nonprofits. So we want to know, from your perspective, how can we and other businesses who are like-minded best support the district? Yeah.
Well, back to career readiness, that's a huge one. We have people who come out to local businesses and ask, hey, would you ever be interested in having, some kids tour your facility or sit down for an interview and say, what does it mean to run a construction business, and what are the different jobs that takes? You working a construction business, and but that's very different than someone who's out pounding nails on a site.
Correct.
And so for kids, sometimes it's just opening their eyes to, there's not just one job in there. So everything from just learning about it to then experiencing it. I think that is something really hands-on with kids that we continue to ask. And we ask a lot of our businesses in town, like, hey, what about a job shadow, or what about an experience, or what about a career expo, which I know Apex has been a part of in the past, and you'll continue to do those. But I think also, just as a strong business here in town, there are so many, and this is what just makes Mankato such a special place, is there does seem to be an understanding that in order for the regional economy to be strong, we need really great businesses, we need strong public schools, we need places for people to live, we need places for them to work. It does kind of take everybody. Yeah. It's not, as soon as we start just working in these independent silos, we're gonna have some problems. So I think just acknowledging that we kind of have to all work together. One of the graduation speakers on Friday night said, we don't always have to always agree, but we do have to work together. And I'm like, geez, Ace, that's brilliant.
You're hired everywhere.
Everywhere. And our public schools are just filled with such dedicated teachers and staff members who want the very best for kids. I think that when our businesses acknowledge that they're serving, everyone's serving an important role in our community, that is really valuable for public schools who are trying to do their very best as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you have an aha moment in your career where you knew that you were on the right path or doing what you were meant to be doing in interaction with a student or a teacher or something completely different?
Yeah. I'm a little strange because so many times when you talk to people about how they got into their career, they say, "Oh, I had no idea." I kind of knew way back when I was in high school that I was probably going to be in education. And I even thought, God, maybe I'll be a principal someday. Now, that took me 1 year of being a teacher where I almost lost. I mean, I was like every first year teacher. I mean, you're barely hanging on. And I thought, being a principal, Paul, you can barely do this. You can't be a principal. But when I was in the principalship, I did that job for 11 years. And it was a blast. And probably kind of in the middle of those 11 years, I felt like, yep, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. That role, working with kids every single day, with staff members, with their parents, having a really supportive superintendent as a boss, having a chance to kind of see what a school board, and the principalship, you see it all. I mean, your head's on a swivel because you never really know what's going to come at you. I got so much energy from that role that I was driving home almost every single day thinking, this is pretty sweet. Challenges,
awesome.
But
of course.
Like with everybody. But I think that it was in that where it really solidified that, yep, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's awesome. As a parent of an elementary student in the district, and I was having this conversation with a coworker who has elementary kids at a different school in the district. So, and we were both recognizing the big focus on teaching those skills like kindness and compassion and empathy and things like that. Like they call it Leader in Me at Washington.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the same at every elementary school, but have those elements of teaching helped with student learning and engagement across the district?
Yeah. Yep. And I'm glad that that's being recognized because our principals and our teachers are spending a lot of time on that. Whether it's Leader in Me or Top 20 or Avid, I mean, there's just so many different. They're almost like character development programs, and there's really been an acknowledgement in schools, probably for the last 10, 15 years, that if we're not taking care of those base foundational skill, character skill development with kids, the learning is going to be just that much harder for them. And what the trick is to make sure that there are some direct lines from a kid learning about kindness and compassion and empathy and all that. Why is that important? Kids always want to know, why am I learning this? But then also as we're helping them to develop into being independent people, that means they're taking control of their learning. They understand that they have a lot of options in life. And so it's really, again, that firm foundation that just helps them grow and gain that confidence as a person. And then for us, of course, we want them to have that confidence as a learner. So they're not feeling like I can't do this or it's too hard, because there's going to be a lot of options for them as they continue to grow. And the great thing about those sorts of programs, those social emotional programs, is they go right up through the high school. Mankato West is always talking about being your best. Be your best at West, and BEST stands for, they have an acronym.
Sure.
East has the same sort of thing.
Yep.
And it's all about, and now what we've started to do is we're starting to measure the effectiveness of those programs. We asked kids this year, do you feel support at school? When you're having a bad day, can you pick yourself up and move on? And then based on that data, individual data and then school data, we can see if it's making a difference. And we can also then go back to those kids and families if we're seeing something that is concerning.
Yeah, good checks and balances with that
for sure.
too. Well, Dr. Peterson, is there anything you'd like to add? This has been a great conversation. Lots of exciting things in the future for the district.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, we're 2 years into COVID, 2.5 years or so, and who knows what the fall will bring. But I think that our team is more committed than ever. We were able to really get back to more regular operations this past year, especially the second half of the year. And it's all systems go. We got to always keep in mind kind of what's maybe looming out there, but we're really expecting for us to have some more typical and more regular experiences for our kids as we prepare this summer and get right back into it this fall.
Well, have a great summer. Thanks for spending some time with us. You can listen to the Build Blue podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find us on YouTube as well. We'll see you next week.